are potentially too broad, while others give very specific definitions which are potentially more useful but fail to cover certain elements of what could be considered cyber warfare. See, Robinson and others argue that hostile act in cyberspace without the actor and a clear intent may not be considered as cyber warfare. Thus, propose a definition of cyber warfare to include the intent and actor. In his definition, he defines cyber warfare as an act in cyberspace that could reasonably cause harm and done with a war-like intent. Harm, in its broadest sense here, may include but not limited to economic harm, psychological, physical, reputational, strategic, and so on. This is also taken as my working definition here. Thus, if cyberspace attack is launched by a nation state with the intent of achieving military objective, this cyber situation can be considered as cyber warfare. However, if an individual launches an attack with intent of causing psychological distress to another individual, it can be concluded that cyberbullying has taken place. A few examples of attack of national security concern that were considered as cyber warfare in history will include the attack on Estonia in Estonian financial institution and its more than 52 websites. This attack paralyzed communication and business transactions for more than 3 weeks. I would like to share an experience here, even though it's not part of this lecture. During the Arab Spring, I think in an attempt for Egypt to curtail the flow of information in and out, they severed their cyberspace. For the period of days that particular activity happened, the country lost over $90 billion. What? Just for severing the activities. So, if it happens to the country for 3 weeks, you can imagine. So Georgia also came under attack, or similar attack in 2008, forcing the National Bank of Georgia to order for the closure of online services by all branches for 10 days. In 2007, Israel initiated a cyber attack on Syria air defense radar, an action that was heralding a further kinetic action to come. Similarly, in 2010, the Iranian nuclear program came under cyber attack using computer worm called Stuxnet to sabotage the country's nuclear weapon development program. This attack could be considered hostile and with warlike intent, but even then, pinning it down to a specific actor remains a mirage. Now, a look at the relevance of cyberspace to military operations. Every sovereign state wishes to influence international events in its favor, or its domestic interests. However, much of this influence a state can wield is largely a function of its elements of national power. By this, which include but not limited to diplomacy. What is your diplomatic cloud around the globe? The information, how much have you been able to manage information to your advantage? The military, what is your military might? And then your economy. Okay, this we call them element of national power. Today, this element, especially economy and military, are largely influenced by technologies of cyberspace. This domain reaches geopolitical boundaries and is integrated with operations of critical national infrastructure. I don't know how many of our critical national infrastructures here are controlled by these industrial control systems, things like SCADA, that is supervisory control and data acquisition equipment. But in developed countries, they understand what it means if a cyber criminal is able to hijack the functioning of those systems. As well as the conduct of commerce, governance, and national defense activities. Access to the internet and other areas of cyberspace provide actors the operational reach and the opportunity to compromise the integrity of critical infrastructure in direct and indirect way without physical presence. The military in particular is one of the greatest beneficiaries of cyberspace and its technology. Pertinent to state here that every military operation is contingent on actionable intelligence and effective command and control. The military command, control, communication, computer, information, intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, and reconnaissance, we call it C4ISTAR for short, are major requirements for any successful military operation. These operational requirements are well facilitated by cyberspace. I give you a small story here as an example. When the US invaded Iraq during the Operation Iraqi Freedom, one of the first things the commander did was to take off all the command and control of the military. Why did he do that? To keep them blind and to allow his own forces seize the initiative. Because once the initiative is taken from you, you will just be reactionary. And again, back home here, for instance, the Nigerian Navy launched the Nigerian Navy Wide Area Network Infrastructure to enhance information sharing and administrative and operational convenience. It also has coverage. It also leveraged the cyberspace through its Nigerian Navy Regional Maritime Awareness Capability for the surveillance of its maritime domain. So you can see we have a facility that we sit back in the office and we're able to see what is happening at sea. So imagine if these infrastructures are severe. So our vision is gone, our initiative is gone too. So just to portray the importance of cyberspace to the military. This network of node and other equipment assists in bringing the theater of operations to the table of the strategic leader for effective decision making, and by implication have become our own operational spaces of the military. Remember, when I was telling you the constraint of cyberspace, we have the operational environment. So it's a space we need to operate. Thus, denial of this space or domain to a military or state will have their implication for national security. It is therefore imperative for states to build capacity and capability in this domain in order to safeguard its national interests in cyberspace. Now, what are the challenges in conducting cyber warfare? Challenges in conducting cyber warfare will spring from three areas. First are challenges that are imposed by the nature of the domain itself. Then secondly is the one imposed by international norms, and the last one, the one imposed by national or domestic cybersecurity posture of the country. Now I start with the challenges that are imposed by the domain itself. Cyberspace has some unique characteristics which could either be an opportunity or a challenge, depending on which side of the divide favors you. First, its global reach. To sit here and cause harm around the globe, unlike in the physical operation that you have to move troops, tanks, and other things, you don't need to move any equipment to launch any operation outside your own domain. So it has a reach. So second is the speed of connection. Sometimes you gather intelligence and early warning in the physical world during operation. But in cyberspace, I am not sure there's any early warning given to you that an attack is coming. Then the fourth one is it provides anonymity. That is one of the biggest challenges even. I've just spelled out some cyber attack that history considered as warlike cyber attack, but even at then, no one, every other thing you hear about the actor is speculation. No one could, specifically pinpoint to an individual. So people marched behind this domain to create a lot of chaos. Then the entry cost to cyberspace is so cheap. The entry cost is so cheap. I give you another example here. During the same invasion of Iraq, the US has a drone they call Predator. That's an equipment that millions of dollars were spent to build. The Predator goes on surveillance and then transmits, some intelligence information to a space satellite, which is transmitted back to the maybe strategic or operational commander. But you can't believe it that the military there, during their, operations, they came across an Iraqi with a laptop. And in that laptop, they discovered that all the information that the satellite is sending to their operational commander, he has it in that laptop. And he just used a $14 software to achieve that. A country that spent millions of dollars to set up the satellites, to build the drone, to set up the command and control, and here is somebody with his laptop in his room with a $14 software, he's getting the same information in his laptop. So you can see the cost of entry is cheap. So, and the sixth one is cyberspace is neutral. In the physical world, some countries are favored by geography, while others are not. So, let's say you want to conduct military maneuver. The nature of terrain you have matters a lot in our own military consideration. That doesn't happen in cyberspace. It's neutral to everybody. How you navigate there is a function of your investment, your capacity to do and undo. So these are all the challenge that the environment itself has set. Then challenges imposed by international norms. Now, there is no agreed international norm and ethics in cyber warfare. None has been quite yet. As with any activity that has the potential to harm, cyber warfare presents ethical challenges. In particular, nations need to know when it is ethically justified to resort to cyber warfare and how to conduct such warfare ethically. Traditional wars are guided by just war, with a number of well-defined principles stating when a nation is ethically justified to go to war and how to remain ethically in war and during the war. These principles are difficult to apply when it comes to cyber warfare. Additionally, kinetic warfare is guided by well-established rules such as the laws of armed conflict and the Geneva Protocols. Cyber warfare, on the other hand, is currently much less regulated. There are currently no widely agreed ethical guidelines for cyber warfare. However, in 2013, NATO published a document or a manual called Talim Manual to provide some guidance on cyber warfare. Even at this, it is seen as Western views of cyber warfare from other actors. Now, the challenges imposed by national or domestic cybersecurity posture. The challenge here is that of capacity and capability that is domiciled with the military or the state as a whole. For example, one can ask the question, how much investment has the state made in terms of technology? What level of human capacity development has been achieved, and how well entrenched is the organizational cybersecurity culture? What is the political will of the leadership to support this sector? And what legal framework is in place to drive capability of state or military in cyber warfare and cyber operations. This surely will spring up a lot of challenges, especially for the developing world. But the good news is that your investment should be commensurate to your stake. Sure. When they said, I don't have any skeleton in my cupboard, so why do I even lock my door? When there is no stake for you to lose, let the cyber warriors continue to disturb themselves. You understand? Yeah. So that is what should worry you, because you can't spend billions of naira investing in cybersecurity when there's nothing to steal or there's nothing at stake. It's a waste of time. Suffice to stay here and allow me to deviate a little so that I can equally mention the effort that we are doing as a people. Suffice to state here that the Nigerian military and by extension the country at large has made noble effort to improve its cybersecurity posture in terms of framework, institution, collaboration, manpower development, awareness, culture building, and many others. What we are doing here is also part of that improvement of the cybersecurity posture, because the awareness first, for anything to grow, the awareness must be there. For example, the federal government enacted the National Cybersecurity Policy Strategy in 2014 and was recently reviewed in 2020 to produce the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy 2021, and it was launched on 23rd February 2021. In 2015, too, the federal government enacted Nigerian Cybersecurity Prohibition and Prevention Act. Section 41 of the Act authorized the Office of the National Security Advisor to oversee cybersecurity efforts of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. This policy and strategy document outlines Nigerian cybersecurity framework, which the Armed Forces of Nigeria has started implementing. Now, the Office of the National Security Advisor also established the Nigerian Computer Security Response Team in May 2015. The plan was for all national government sectors, including the Armed Forces of Nigeria, to set up computer security incident response team to be coordinated by the Computer Response Emergency Team in tackling all cyber-related threats in the country, thereby forming a robust system for enhanced national security in Nigeria. Again, a Directorate of Cybersecurity was established in Defense Space Administration in 2016 to pioneer cybersecurity operations in the Armed Forces of Nigeria. The Nigerian Army Cyber Command was also established, like the representative of the Chief of Defense Staff mentioned earlier, was established in 2018 to, among other things, protect Nigerian Army electronic resources, combat asset information system, both physical and remotely. Recently, again, the Nigerian Army also established Nigerian Army Cyber Warfare School for the development and sustainment of the Nigerian Army Cyber Warfare Command in both human capacity and technological innovation. The Nigerian Navy and Nigerian Air Force has for a while now embarked on aggressive enlistment and recruitment of ICT personnel for capacity building in cyber warfare operation. In 2016 also, the Nigerian Defense Academy also introduced the Intelligence and Cybersecurity course at Nigerian Defense Academy, which is geared towards capacity building of its officers in cyber warfare and cyber operations. This effort is in line with the global trend of other armed forces globally. Having enumerated some of the challenges, they can be all, there are many, but some of the challenges, what then are the strategies to be able to survive in cyber warfare? One of the goals of every military in a battle space is to retain freedom of action, or what we call superior strategic orientation, so that it can also retain its initiative. Denial of space is akin to losing the initiative. Similarly, the goal in cyberspace is to have freedom of action and stop others from SEM, especially where it will be used for hostile purposes. Therefore, all strategies around cyber warfare revolves around dominance of cyberspace as much as a state can control to further its national. Develop defensive and offensive capabilities will require building a resilient network and response capability in addition to redundancy and recognition capabilities. Option 2 is to develop offensive capabilities. You might choose to be offensive because you don't have anything at stake. There's nothing for anybody to score. So all you always want to go on the offensive. So if you have to go on the offensive, you have to develop